Hi, hope you've had a great day. This is Peggy Miller, and we're on maintenance 12. Maintenance, people don't often, they think of going to a medical herbalist when they have a chronic problem, which obviously you need to do. You get a consult, you pinpoint what is causing whatever their chronic symptoms are, whether it's pain, major anxiety, major night sweats, etc. And we reviewed that uh, back in the intro and the overviews. So go back to those in terms of what symptoms mean it's chronic and which are just, maintenance issues that you can deal with in maintenance with maintenance herbs. Now, I've gone through each decade, but there are certain things that I wanted to stress as just overall, no matter what your age. And that's what a few of those I'm trying to do in this one. And the three I would like to highlight are grief, inflammation, and mucus. And let's just start with grief. Grief happens at every age. The loss of loved ones, and you don't even have to, like a young child can suffer from real trauma, can suffer many of the same symptoms and impacts physically that I am discussing here. So it's not just, in your 30s or 40s or when you're much older. The impacts are felt and their physical impacts. When you suffer grief, one of the main things that it does to the body, particularly in the area around the heart, is it creates the equivalent of tiny wounds internally. Some of the pain that you feel, and they talk about a broken heart, some of that pain literally is a result of tiny breaks in the arteries, little tiny bits of blood bleeding, a bleeding heart. That tremendous grief can cause that to happen. When that occurs, one of the best things to do is to use blood stagnation clearing herbs. And what you'll notice if you're suffering from grief and from heart, broken heart syndrome, your heart area hurts because of the grief. As you take blood clearing herbs like dandelion, tianchi ginseng, myrrh, these help clear blood stagnation. And you will feel within a few hours to a day relief in that area. You literally will feel more comfortable. If that's all you used, was make a tea with 6 grams of dandelion, it would help clear some of that pain you're feeling. Now, in addition to that, though, there are other herbs that help with the impacts as well. Because of the blood stagnation, the heart starts to heat. The heart does not like being hot, and it needs to be cooled. So hawthorne is one of the herbs that can help cool the heart. And it also helps with food stagnation, so that's a sort of side benefit. Hawthorn's an amazing herb. It also helps strengthen the vein and artery walls. So taking it with the dandelion, the other ones that I recommend, there is an herb called Mimosa Bark, Mimosa, Mimosa Bark. And it has a very interesting, if you're in the middle of very deep grief, you basically want, a lot of people drink. And the first night, to be honest, I will tell people, unless they're alcoholics, to just, that getting drunk is not unreasonable at all. Not for repeating it for long, but for the first night or two when you've suffered a tremendous trauma, having some real stiff drinks and can help numb the grief. So numbing is sort of an action that you sort of want. Mimosa bark can provide this. And a lot of times it's not on hand, but you can get some, and I recommend that you create a tea that's dandelion or tianjia myrrh, but the hawthorne and the mimosa bark. The mimosa bark helps the brain sort of put a wall between the grief and functioning. It allows you to function. A lot of times when you experience traumatic grief, you lose the ability to function for a period of time. And sometimes you can't. You're a parent. You have to go to work. So functioning can be critically important. Mimosa bark added to the tea will help with that. The others are nervines like oat straw. Oat straw or passion flower are nervines that help calm the nerves, which will really be impacted during trauma. So add a little nervine to your grief tea. In addition, the only other ones that I point out that are worthwhile and useful to add to the tea are schizandra. Schizandra helps with calming. Sort of like mimosa bark, but in a different way, and I highly recommend you include it. It will help calm the heart and calm your system during the experience of especially the first week to 2 weeks of trauma. In addition to schizandra, and I bring this one up all the time. You say, lady, you use that herb, but it's good. Goji berry. It will help with yin. It helps build yin, and yin at this point can really help. It also just helps the heart in general, heart blood deficiency. So I would toss in a little goji berry at this time. There are other nervines to use as well, alternating between oat straw and turning to a stronger one like skullcap. Skullcap can actually help you fall asleep if you're finding that, yes, these herbs are helping, but you just plain need to get to sleep. Skullcap is a nervine which is sometimes used by addicts who are withdrawing themselves from their addiction. Alcoholics, and they're trying to get off of their addiction, their alcohol. And they will often talk about frayed nerves, inability to sleep. Skullcap is used very effectively. So in a really traumatic grief situation, add a little skullcap, especially with your cup of tea before bed, and you will also be able to help. And then the other herbs I've mentioned, the dandelion or tianjia myrrh, the hawthorne, the oat straw, the mimosa bark, and the schizandra, they'll be helping with the problem itself, the impact on the heart. So skullcap is another really good one. Lighter ones, once you've passed the initial first week or so of the enormous impact, lavender and mugwort. People forget about. They're gentler, but they're effective nervines. Rose even. Rose is a nervine. It relaxes you. So when you're past the initial trauma, then switching to those is good. So that's what I wanted to talk about grief. It impacts us at every age. Let me touch on inflammation and mucus briefly. Inflammation also impacts at any age. Internal inflammation can result from anything. A kid falls off their bike, and you put a Band-Aid on the scraped knee, but there's internal inflammation. They may have pulled a muscle when they did it, and we don't do anything about that. You fall off your bike, you fall off your skates, your skateboard, etc. You don't, but through the different ages and as you get older and different things occur to your physical system, inflammation is virtually a given. So I treat it as a maintenance issue. There are great anti-inflammatories. Marshmallow can be taken at virtually any age, and you add it to a tea, add it to your juice, make a tea, and then these things can be added to juice or coffee or tea, other teas. But marshmallow is a great anti-inflammatory throughout the system. So is dandelion. Dandelion, particularly for the liver, but dandelion's an anti-inflammatory, and it's excellent. Dandelion marshmallow together are very good, and so periodically using these just for anti-inflammatory impacts are excellent. Oat straw is another one that's right up there as an anti-inflammatory. When you bang an elbow, it causes inflammation. If you were to use anti-inflammatories like these fairly often, and every month say, okay, I need to include some anti-inflammatories, just as a given, it will help address anything that's occurred and where there's inflammation. You pull your back out. You have a small fall, not a huge one, just, you're changing a light bulb and you slip and you fall. For any reason, at any age, falls occur and different types of accidents which cause internal inflammation. So take the ones that I've recommended periodically, once every couple months, and that will help to curb inflammatory situations that are internal. Other things obviously cause it as the same. If you have a STD that is not a big issue, it still causes inflammation and needs to be addressed. So inflammatories are important. Finally, and let me take a sip of my coffee because I'm jabbering away here in my usual way. Okay. And let me just say, on the grief teas, on the inflammatories, and any of these, yes, I do make these teas, but you can also get them online. But if you want to contact me, Highland Winds LLC, please do. You can Google me and look that up, Highland Winds LLC, and I have a list of a lot of my different blends, but you can just email me and say, hey, I'd like this or that or, whatever. But you can get them online as well. And you can get this on a DVD from MCAT for $5. They're making these podcasts in DVD form so that you can collect them if you want. Finally, on mucus, before we run out of time. Mucus, I should do a whole one just on mucus, and maybe I will. Mucus basically creates problems throughout the system. It can cause edema. It can dry up in little tiny bits and surround the heart and cause anger. It can be in little tiny bits in your brain and contribute to memory issues. It can clog the fallopian tubes. It can clog your nose and your lungs. Mucus is a problem. There are herbs like poria, panelia, bamboo, hyssop, mullein that all help clear mucus. These need to be taken on a somewhat regular basis. The other approach, I'm starting to get a dry throat. The other approach is increasing yin, and I will be talking about that in yin deficiency. So look for that one as well. I hope you have found this maintenance series, effective. And look for my next one, and you have an excellent day. Take care.